G'day Rankers, how you going? Before we go any further, it's been a big week, but before we get into it, don't forget, book now, April 10th, 2 p.m. for our next webinar. We're going to be going through some of the tips and the tools that we use. And one question has come out this week from a team member who said, Jim, if you only had one of these AI tools to use, which one would it be? So I thought I'd just take you through that thought process today, because we'll be covering stuff like that in the webinar. But it has been a massive week again. So the question was, what model would you use? What tool would you use? Okay, so what do I use ChatGPT for? Well, obviously it's the first model. It's the one I spend the most money on, but it's the one that I use the least. I think for our purposes, we're spending about 100 US a month with the accounts that we have. And I tend to use OpenAI ChatGPT mainly for deep knowledge research, because it has that tool, which is great. I don't use it for search generally anymore, Search GPT. I don't use that at all. I use another tool, which I'll tell you about. I use it, the deep research, or deep, I forget which one it's called, but deep research tool that it's got is excellent, but then so has Google, which we'll get onto in a second. The latest model that came out from ChatGPT 4.5 is a bit meh, and I think it'll be really good though at the API level for doing things that require maybe consulting, coaching, that sort of stuff. And I can see it being really valuable there. I'm hoping to get to build something at that level, because that'd be fun. And so that's ChatGPT. I don't tend to use the projects or anything like that, even though I showed you how to use that. The reason I showed you how to use that is because they copied that from Anthropic's Claude, and I use it in Anthropic's Claude all the time. Really good. It's actually better in Claude than what it is in ChatGPT. And while we're talking about Claude, let's talk about Claude some more. So as you know, they released their latest model last week, which was the 3.7. It's the thinking model, the reasoning model, as good as, for my money, it's better than anything ChatGPT has. People will disagree. I think it's better than anything ChatGPT has, and I would probably be my default large language model choice. I'm sort of edging between that one and Grok, but I'll tell you about that in a second. But the other thing that Claude has released, I think it's this week or last week, I can't remember, I can't keep up, is search. So it now has a built-in search engine. So if you're paying attention, we've got ChatGPT search. Of course, we've had Perplexity search, as I covered very early on. We've got Gemini, obviously, that does some form of search. And now we have, and we've had Grok for some time that's had search. And now we have Claude that also has the ability to search. It doesn't have the deep research tool that ChatGPT has, Google AI Studio has, and Grok currently have. It doesn't have that. That would be the only downside for my money. But they also, Anthropic, the company that makes Claude, they also released, as you may remember, MCP servers last year. Now, what does that mean? It's basically just a way for these large language models to interact with tools in the real world. And that makes them incredibly more powerful. And you may remember I did a show on it last year where I built a search engine using an MCP server. And I had that search tool within the Claude environment. Now, you don't have to do that because Claude has done it I'll just let my dog out. So Claude, probably my model of choice. Now, the one that I think is a bit of a sleeper, and people just don't realize that they can use for free, is Google. So AI Studio, and I've spoken about this before as well, is a great environment to test every one of Google's models. They put them all up there. If you've got a Google account, it's free. And I use them when I want to, for specific tasks. Like I showed you last week how they've now got that image editing. Oh, incidentally, I forgot to mention, this week also, you may have seen a whole bunch of memes going around of people having their images in a certain anime style called Ghibli. The reason for that is that ChatGPT also released native image generation inside of ChatGPT. So it's no longer DALL-E 3, we don't have to worry about that anymore. We've got, with the 4.0 model, it's got image generation native built in now. And the images are quite stunning. So it's been quite good at text. It only came out yesterday, I think. But it does text really well, which of course Midjourney didn't do very well. Didn't do it all, really. Up until now, I've been using Grok for image generation and editing, because what I showed you in Gemini last week, where you can quickly edit image. You can do that as well in Grok. But let's stick with ChatGPT. Image generation is very good. So I'm in a conundrum at the moment in that pretty much the only thing I really like about, or that I would use possibly on a semi-regular basis in ChatGPT is image. Possibly deep research, but then I'd also have a go at Grok or Google for that as well. So back to Gemini and Google AI Studio. So Google's released a new model this week, and it's now the best model out there. It's Gemini 2.5, and it's beating all the benchmarks that are out there, and it's best for coding, best for a lot of things. Now that model in and of itself doesn't do images, but you can go and use it and play with it. And it's a bit buggy. It's censored. Google AI Studio is just generally censored. Even if you've got all the censorship turned off, like I have, it will still have problems with certain things. I think that's a bug within the censorship stuff itself. So if anyone, and this is a shout out to anyone, if anyone can use the Gemini image generation model to actually generate an image where you have used the word family in the prompt, let me know, because I have not been able to generate an image of the word family, and it just keeps telling me that the content is not permitted. I don't know why, which is really annoying if you're trying to put a family in a nice setting for an ad that you're doing. So it is buggy, and that is the issue that I have with AI Studio. But it's free, and there's a lot of great stuff there. And if you know, the other thing that some of the Google models will do as well is that they have a massive context window, and that means that you can upload books of data and then start querying it. Whereas you can't do that with ChatGPT or Claude. I mean, Claude has a limit of, I think, 30 meg and about 5 files, whereas, you know, you can upload giant videos into some of the models on AI Studio and those sorts of things. So there's AI Studio I'd probably use for large context projects, any sort of video analysis I'd use Gemini for. Possibly I'll be using it for coding in the short term just to test it out, because it's meant to be better than everything else. Up until now I've been using 3.7, but I probably, in Claude 3.7, but I probably won't be using Gemini 2.5 within AI Studio. I will use that within a coding tool, which allows me to, because I've been doing a lot of vibe coding, as it's called. We'll get to that. We'll talk about that in the webinar. And I've been using an awesome tool, which I'll probably talk about next week. But the final tool, so we've done ChatGPT, we've done Claude, we've done Gemini. The fourth tool, final tool, is Grok, and that has replaced Google search for me. A lot of types of Google search, because I can ask questions, which is why Google's moving to this AI mode that we saw last week. People want to ask questions. They want to have a follow-up question to the search that they just did, none of which is possible, even with AI overviews. So, and that AI mode in Google search has actually been rolled out more broadly now in the US. Still not here in Australia. But the reason I would use Grok for search over Google, it has that access to that real-time news feeds of X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And so, like, you know, I wanted some information about my local council this morning. So I just went to Grok and I said, and because I heard they had some staff changes, I'd read about it on Facebook. So I went to Grok and I just said, you know, did a search about staff changes. And Grok came back and gave me a great review of what had happened, and it knew all the details, and it gave me references and citations, and that's all I did. I couldn't do that in Google, right? Google I probably will still use at the moment for brand search, and I think for me that's probably the holdout for me for using Google. But all of these tools are assistants. They're assistant search tools, if you like. So in the case of Grok, I'm not doing the search, right? I'm just asking a question. It's going out and finding that information for me. Whereas the 10 blue links was about me going through and sifting all the results that Google was giving me. So Grok and all these other AI tools are doing that for you now, which is why I wrote the book. Beyond Google, Mastering Search in a World of AI Assistants, because that's where we're heading now. These assistants are doing our searches for us. So make sure you get the book. But more importantly, right now, make sure you go out and book for the webinar right here, because it booked really quickly last time, and it's already we've got quite a few coming in right now. So go and book, and please remember to like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. And if you can make an image of a family out of Google Gemini image model, please let me know in the comments, and we will see you next week. Thanks very much. Bye.